Welcome in, everybody, to Betting Pros. It's time to place your bets. It is me, Joey P, Joe Pisapia, and it's Week 17. Can you believe it? Fantasy championships will be won or lost this week, but neither matters here because this is just about us making money on football. This is about us having fun, and we're still having fun, so fantasy might be over, but betting never stops, and of course, neither do these two guys because it's the morning after Christmas, and here we are opening a present of a show for you. Sam Hoppen right here, fresh off of Too Many Christmas Cookies, and Pat Fitzmaurice, fresh off of, just the entire Christmas season. Just the eggnog continues to flow through Pat Fitzmaurice in a very strong way. But regardless, we're here. I've got more lasagna to feed people because Christmases never end when you're Italian. You just have every cousin that you ever had in your entire life come over your house. And that's what's happening for the rest of the week. But it doesn't matter. We're still here talking football. We got a great time for you today. So if you haven't already, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Drop your comments below because we're still giving away premium upgrades to Betting Pros. We want you to win all of those that are possibly left here as the season comes to a close. What a wacky weekend of football we had. Incredible performances from Amari Cooper last week. Some upsets on those Christmas Day games as well. You know, guys, I thought something was going to go sideways. You look at these games, you're like, wow, these are three heavy home favorites. Something's going to go sideways. I thought one. I didn't think two were going to go sideways, and the one that went sideways, that didn't go sideways, is the only one that I thought was going to. So, at the end of the day, it's a hot mess. But we're going to sort it out. That's what we're going to do, and let's jump right in, feet first, to some of the games we've got going on here today. And again, don't forget to subscribe, because we've also got the NBA action here on the program as well, which is a great time every Wednesday and Friday. We've got best NBA bets going on there on Fast Break Bets with Matt Modi, 11 a.m. Eastern, right here on the channel live, so you can ask questions, you can get involved with the NBA action. So, gentlemen, let's kick things off here with the first game, another Thursday nighter. The New York Jets coming off an incredible performance at home when they got eliminated for the playoffs, going against the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland's 10-5. They are 7-point home favorites. An incredible game for Joe Flacco. 36.5 is a consensus number on Betting Pros right now. Plus 260 for the Jets upset. Sam, let's start with you on this one here. The Cleveland Browns, a very convincing victory, an incredible performance. Joe Flacco continues to just throw 300-yard game after 300-yard game. So any feelings about this line, any early value, and could this one possibly even continue to grow as the week drags on?
Yeah, I am about 40 minutes outside of Cleveland for the holidays, and let me tell you, it is buzzing here with how good this offense looks. I mean, this offense looks probably the best it has in the last 2 years. I know I mentioned last week that Flacco isn't really playing as well as the results have shown, and I think that's still the case to a degree, but Kevin Stefanski is dialing up some incredible play calls, using play action at a slightly higher rate with Joe Flacco under center. They just had their third positive EPA performance on the year this past week. And even in the event that Flacco does turn it over, this defense is still good enough to hold opposing offenses down, so it doesn't really cost them that much. 7 is a lot of points, though, against this Jets defense that continues to play well, despite the sort of second half blunder they had against Washington this past week. So I don't have a lean on the side for this game right now. I think I would lean Cleveland. I believe it's about -7 right now. I made it -6 for Cleveland, but again, not confident enough to want to back the Jets.
Understandably so. And boy, you got to be loving that Cleveland to win the AFC that you had there, because that went from 30-1 to 20-1 over the last couple weeks. So Sam's loving that investment. Fitzy, a performance from the Jets and Breece Hall that I don't think anybody really saw coming necessarily, and that throws a wrinkle into this just slightly, but this one is in Cleveland, so I'm kind of where Sam is, which is it feels about right. Your thoughts on this one here as Cleveland continues to put together good performance after good performance lately?
Well, it's funny, Joe, when you talked about things going sideways for a couple of the home favorites at the top of the show, I bet you weren't even talking about the Jets. And I took them last weekend and was counting my money about an hour into that game, and things started to get away from them. So this does seem like a lot of points. But the Jets have been really bad on the road this year, and they've been especially bad as big road dogs. They're 1-5 against the spread on the road, 0-3 against the spread on the road when underdogs by 7 or more points. So they have played down to expectations in some of these games where they've been big road dogs. But this is a really tough matchup for Joe Flacco. I mean, the Jets have been tough on opposing passing games. You have to tip your hat to him for making this Cleveland passing game go. But he also has 5 interceptions in his last 2 games. And that's what scares me about possibly taking the Browns here. I don't really want to bet the Browns. I'm not betting the Jets on the road here. So you can interest me in the under, though. Like, I mean, The Browns have an excellent defense. The Jets have a very good defense. And, I could see this one turning into a total rock fight. So I'm inclined to bet the under here more so than either side.
All right, let's go to the next one here. Detroit at Dallas. Dallas, again, dropping another big game on the road, as Dallas is wont to do. The Detroit Lions have wrapped up the North. They are kings of the North for the first time in a very long time. They are 6-point underdogs, though, going into Dallas, which is where Dallas does their best work. So this is understandable. 53.5 is the number here on Betting Pros, plus 220 for the Lions. Now, Pat, I mean, I imagine, it's week 17. I don't think you're going to start sitting guys necessarily here if you're Dan Campbell. I think guys are going to get out there and continue to work. And Jared Goff does play good in controlled environments. We know this. I'm on the Detroit side of this game, and I actually kind of think that plus 220 on the money line is the most intriguing part. I think Dallas is reeling a little bit. I know they've been brilliant at home, but you know what? Detroit Lions right now, at least the 6, to me, that's a good temptation. I want to go there.
Yeah, at first blush, this does seem like it's too many points, Joe. And the only thing that gives me pause, and you said it, is how good Dallas has been at home. 7-0 straight up, 6-1 against the spread this year for the Cowboys when they're at home. So I'm not sure if I'm going to pull the trigger on the Lions or not. Like, it's really close, but if I'm going to bet this, that's who I'm going to bet. So I agree with you. Like, that is where the lean is. And I've already bet the under. Like, such a tall number that you really need both teams to go up and down the field on this one to get an over. And the Cowboys rank 6th in defensive DVOA and the Lions rank 13th. So these are 2 pretty good defenses, and not a case where you're getting a gross mismatch where a couple of really good offenses picking on bad defenses. The defenses here are legit. So I don't think we're likely to get, a point total in the upper 50s here.
Sam, Pat makes a great case for the under in this game with the high total of 53.5. Do you concur?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the side, again, with the total of this big. You need everything to go right. You can't have those long drives that end in a field goal or a red zone turnover, things like that. Those will absolutely kill the chance of this going over. But I'm with both of you. I think the Lions are clearly the side here. So the last 4 games, Dallas has played Seattle, Philadelphia, Buffalo, and Miami. So 4 pretty good offenses, but they are struggling on defense to hold these offenses. Over the last 4 weeks, they are 32nd in early down EPA per play and early down success rate. And Detroit still is one of the better offenses. They're playing with one of the best offensive coordinators in Ben Johnson. So I think Detroit has a chance to take this win in Dallas. I mean, there's no way that Detroit is sitting anyone over the next 2 weeks, because they still have a chance at the number 1 seed with everyone at 11-4 at the top of the NFC. So I really like Detroit in this spot and think they could come away with the win.
How crazy would that be if the Lions were not only just the kings of the North, but the number 1 seed? I talked to a buddy of mine who has been a long time suffering Lions fan, and he was so excited yesterday on Christmas, which is so funny because he was so miserable on Thanksgiving. He was miserable on Thanksgiving. I know you two were not. You guys were very happy with that day. All right, let's get to the next one. Much to my chagrin, the New England Patriots won again last week. Jerks. All right, let's get to this game that they've got coming up in Buffalo. Buffalo has trounced them these last few times around. 12 points is a lot, though, Sam. 41 is the number, plus 500 for New England to win this game. I know New England found a way to squeak out a victory thanks to Sean Payton over in Denver, but what are your take on this one? I know 12 is a large number. Buffalo should have smashed the Chargers last week. Instead, they kind of just squeaked by. I don't know, maybe the road travel, something about that, the holidays, all that crunch, but this one's at home. Is 12 too much, or is it just right for you, Sam?
Joe, I have been on the Patriots each of the last 2 weeks, and I have won those each of the last 2 weeks. Or I guess pushed against the Chiefs, but I will not be on the Patriots for a third time. But I'm not on the Bills either. I think that since Joe Brady took over, the Bills have been much more run heavy. They are wanting to run the ball as much as they can. They're sort of, I don't know if they're hiding Josh Allen, but it doesn't seem like he trusts them that much. And the way to beat the Patriots is through the air. Their run defense continues to be exceptional. And I think if Buffalo runs as much as they want to and have over the past couple of weeks, that they're going to struggle to move the ball. James Cook has been great, especially from a fantasy perspective, but he hasn't been the most elite rusher. He's been great in the passing game, but I think honestly the best play here might be like parlaying the under with the Patriots, because if the Bills lean into the run, I don't think they have as much success, and that keeps the total a little bit lower as well.
That was my thinking as well, is you have seen this shift here to James Cook, and I don't know if it's hiding Josh Allen so much as maybe it's trying to balance the offense for once and trying not to ask Josh Allen to do everything all the time and make every single play, because I think that's asking a lot of any quarterback, no matter how talented. But to Sam's point, it is that rush defense of the Patriots, that one thing that does seem to be the only thing going for the Patriots this year. So that being said, is this another under, Fitzy, for you?
Yeah, I'm not betting either the side or the total on this one. And I don't have the numbers in front of me, Joe, but I would love to see what the underdog is this year in games where the underdog is catching double-digit points and the total on a game is relatively low, like 42 points or less. It seems like the underdog in those matchups has been doing really well this year. So that's it. Like, you see a total this low and a double-digit spread, and I do not want to bet the favorite.
Yeah,
so I just, I can't get behind the Bills here. And as you said, like, the one thing the Patriots do, Joe, really well is stop the run. And with Joe Brady and the Bills leaning so hard on the running game, like, I don't know how that's going to work out. But yeah, and Joe, condolences on that victory for the Patriots on that probably is going to cost them the quarterback they so desperately need in the draft. But nice to see them show their pride, I guess, in Denver.
Pride cometh before the fall, my friend. It's miserable. Like, I can only hope that there's going to be more trading and things going on. There's also 2 weeks for other teams to lose, too. So I can only assume these next 2 games the Patriots can lose to the Bills. I'm hoping. Let's go, Buffalo. The Baltimore Ravens, 12-3, are going to host the Miami Dolphins, 11-4, who finally beat a big-time opponent. That's great. And Baltimore Ravens, shout out to them. Look, last week I was on my high horse. I thought the 49ers were unbeatable. I thought they were going to smash. I took the 5.5, and boy, oh boy, was I wrong. Brock Purdy laid an absolute egg. Interceptions galore, 4 of them. Now, 2 of them, maybe we could say, are questionable. We talked about this before the show, but still, there was 2 that he got away with, too, that could have been interceptions. So I'll take that 4 or give him a 3.5, whatever it is. But regardless, give Baltimore credit. Lamar and company played a great game. The defense played very well. So here you go. Ravens 12-3, Miami 11-4. Ravens are just 3-point favorites. This is a really interesting line. I thought they might get a little bit more, maybe the hook, or possibly even more, Fitzy, after that performance last night. But this morning, that's all you're getting. 47 is the number. Miami plus 135. So Fitz, this is a huge AFC game here that's basically going to tell you how the next 2 weeks go for both these teams. Do you think that Miami is up to the task to go into Baltimore and win this football game? Or is this another spot for the Ravens to assert their dominance and not let their guard down, which is something the Ravens seem to do in some other games? Like, they get up for some games, and other games they look more human. Which Ravens club do we see this week?
Yeah, the Ravens were clearly up for that game against the 49ers, and I can't imagine they have a letdown game in a game of this magnitude and coming home. But at the same time, I think we finally got what we wanted to see from the Dolphins, and that's a win against a quality opponent. Like every time we wanted to crown them, they would play some strong team like the Bills or whoever, and they would lose, and we'd have to question whether the Dolphins belonged in the elite tier of the NFL. So now I think they've showed that they do belong. Another case where I'm not really interested in the side, Joe, but you can talk me into the under here because both of these defenses, again, too good for the total to be this high. The Ravens are number 2 in defensive DVOA, and I think people realize what a good defense this is, although maybe they're going to be without Kyle Hamilton, who injured his knee on Sunday night. That was kind of a bummer for the Ravens. But I'm not sure the public has a really good grasp on how good this Miami defense has been over the last 2 months. The only teams to score more than 21 points against the Dolphins over their last 8 games were the Titans, oddly enough. So I think this total is just too tall. I think the under is the best bet in this game, and there's really no value on either side, in my opinion.
All right, your thoughts on Baltimore and Miami, and by the way, Sam, too, Lamar Jackson's now gone ahead of everybody for MVP. Is minus 170 on the board. Christian McCaffrey at plus 450, and where's Brock Purdy? He's all the way at plus 1,300 now. All it took was a couple picks, baby. That's all it took. Your thoughts here on Ravens-Dolphins?
Yeah, the Ravens I still can't get a full grasp on. Like their offense is scoring well. Like they've scored 30 plus points in some of their last 9 games, but it just doesn't, it looks like a challenge at certain points. And I understand Lamar's the MVP, and I think that's mostly based off of vibes and like, who else are you going to give it to? And he had the win in primetime against this great 49ers defense. Again, not trying to take anything away from Lamar, because I think he has been fantastic this year. But we're giving a lot of credit to this Baltimore Ravens defense that just, not a couple weeks ago got sort of gashed by the Rams for 31 points. So they're just sort of like all over the place for me. So I originally was going to lean Miami in this game because, to your point, I think their defense is still underrated. What they've been able to do with Jalen Ramsey and even with the loss of Jalen Phillips has been incredibly impressive. Vic Fangio is calling a great defense there. So I don't have a lean on this game right now.
I'll say this. I'm pretty sure when we get the 49er game, we're all going to agree the 49ers are going to win. If Baltimore has another hiccup here, this Christian McCaffrey at plus 450 for MVP, that's the bet of the week. That's the bet of the week. I mean, I don't know how you don't do that, because he is the MVP. We're trying to give it to anybody here, but if you think about this year, who's been the most valuable asset in the National Football League, I don't think there's any doubt that at this juncture in the season, it's McCaffrey. No quarterback has really stepped up consistently. They've all had moments, but everybody's kind of drifted backwards. At the end of the day, I think it's McCaffrey right now. I know we don't like to give it. I know it's Peterson, and we got to go back to like Sean Alexander, for God's sakes. But I don't know. Sam, you look like you have feelings about this, as I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, we could do a whole nother podcast on this, but the reactionary nature of the awards market for the MVP specifically, I mean, at the end of the day, these voters, I think, are going to go back and look at the full landscape and product of their season and not just react to the most recent Monday Night Football game and how that turned out. So, again, if there was any year that a running back or someone like Christian McCaffrey was going to win it, certainly this is the year. But I do think that players like Lamar Jackson, I mean, if the Dolphins win this game, Tua's probably going to be the MVP favorite after the
but
game.
You know what? So, he ain't the MVP either. And I think when you look totality of everything, I don't think that's going to – I don't think – look, Brock Purdy was on by a thread, and then this game happened, and this is – I don't know if he can recover from this one. Not in this race. I really don't think that. Pat, I don't know what your thoughts are here, but to Sam's point, like, we could just juggle back and forth, but the one guy every single week who's getting it done, who's putting up magical stats, is Christian McCaffrey. He got 20-something touchdowns already. What are we doing here?
It's funny, at Christmas, a Christmas Day gathering yesterday, my cousin's fiance has Christian McCaffrey at plus 3,800. He has a bet on Christian McCaffrey at plus 3,800, and he laid out the possibilities. Like, well, the 49ers would probably have to lay an egg in this game against the Ravens, and Purdy has a really bad game, then Lamar has to lose at Miami, and McCaffrey bounces back with some massive game against Washington, which could very easily happen. I could see it. I don't hate those odds on McCaffrey right now. We know it's traditionally been a quarterback's award, but this is setting up for one of those rare years where a running back could sneak through.
Pat, there hasn't been one quarterback pillar to post that's really been it this year. All right, we spent a little time on that. Let's fly through these games here. Vegas, Indianapolis. Indianapolis, 3-point favorites at home. Vegas, huge upset. Sam, this number is 44.5 plus 135 on the Vegas side. Look, the Colts have been an enigma all year in terms of betting, but you got to give credit to Antonio Pierce and the Raiders, man. He has had this team from minute one of taking over that job, prepared to play and ready to play. That makes them very dangerous. Are they dangerous in this one?
I think they are. I mean, I think I was actually surprised that the market wasn't more in favor of Las Vegas after their win against Kansas City. But I think there's two things. I mean, people sort of realized that the win was fluky. They scored 2 defensive touchdowns, barely had over 200 yards of offense. And we know that this Chiefs offense is not what it used to be. So shutting them down is not the great feat that it once was. That said, Antonio Pierce wants to establish the hell out of the run. I mean, if they get a lead, they are going to run as much as possible. Fortunately, that is not a strong spot for Indianapolis. It helps that the Raiders are 4th in EPA per rush over the last 4 weeks. They're doing it without Josh Jacobs as well, who seems like he might be back this next week. It sounded like he was close to playing in this game against Kansas City as well. So I like the Raiders in this spot to pull off the upset even on a short week.
Yeah, look, O'Connell is not impressive. I'm sorry. I watched that game, and, he is not the goods. And I didn't think he was the goods when he was in college either. So whatever that pivot is, it makes you ponder, like, if Garoppolo was healthy enough to really play, like, maybe this could be a very dangerous team potentially. Fitz, I don't have a lot of faith in O'Connell, but there's something about Antonio Pierce that just gets this defense fired up, get this team very focused. They find ways to win and be competitive. And Indy is, as I said before, a bit of an enigma. I know for you, especially, you've mentioned it several times this year. What do you think of this game here with the early kind of, here you go, choose your own adventure that Vegas is laying out for us?
Yeah, the Raiders have been really plucky under Antonio Pierce, but I am not the Shane Steichen disciple that Sam is, but I do think there's a little bit of value on the Colts here. And Sam mentioned, like, he's surprised this line is not pointing more in the Raiders' direction. But think of what this line probably would have been before last weekend's results, with the Chiefs getting upset by the Raiders and the Colts laying this egg, probably playing their worst game of the season against the Falcons. I think had week 16 never happened, I think you're probably seeing Colts -5.5 in this one. So, you talked about it, Joe, like the Chiefs offense, or maybe it was you, Sam, sorry. The Chiefs offense really struggling. They gift wrapped the Raiders a couple of presents with those back-to-back defensive scores on consecutive plays, I believe that was. The Raiders just don't have much of a passing game. And, their explosion against the Chargers 2 weeks ago, notwithstanding. But I was going to say,
I think that 63 they dropped 2 weeks ago, but that was the Chargers.
Yeah, and I think we could see the Colts come out breathing fire after playing such a poor game against the Falcons last week. Like, I think they're going to come back hard in this one, and I am leaning towards betting the Colts here. Have not done it yet, but I think I am going to bet the Colts.
Speaking of the Falcons, they are going to travel to Chicago to take on the Bears. They are 3-point underdogs in Chicago. 38 is the number, plus 130 for the Falcons. Fitz, again, confidence is a tricky word this time of year in certain teams. Do you have confidence that Chicago can handle their business and Atlanta will continue their road woes, or do you think Atlanta somehow finds a way to pull out a victory here?
Nope, I bet the Bears. They've won 3 of the last 4. They've held opponents to an average of 14.8 points per game over that stretch. And the Chicago defense is just playing really well lately. And Justin Fields is generating offense. The Falcons need this game, but are we going to trust Arthur Smith in a must-win game? I don't know about you guys, but I am not. And last week's Massey Peabody ranking suggested that the Bears are about 2 points better than the Falcons on a neutral field. This is not going to be a neutral field. It's a dome team from the deep south coming up to Chicago to play an outdoor game in temperatures that are probably going to be in the 30s next Sunday. So I like the Bears here. I'll lay the field goal.
All right, Sam, your thoughts on this contest here between the Bears and the Falcons? Any value here on this line?
I don't see anything on the sides, but I think the under is in play here. The Atlanta defense is legit, and they have been all year. And for how good the Bears defense has played recently, their offense has continued to struggle. They rank 32nd in passing success rate over the last 4 weeks. And again, the free agency additions that Atlanta brought in on defense, I mean, Calais Campbell is playing very well for, I think, 38 years old. So I think both of these teams, again, with strong defenses, less than ideal offenses, give me the under here.
Falcons are a quarterback and a coach away. That's all they are. Quarterback and a coach. Get those two things in the offseason, I think they get right in the thick of
easier
the playoff
said than done.
I know, but you never know. I mean, crazy things happen. Sometimes coaches show up with quarterbacks, sometimes we've seen that happen when guys leave together. All right, Carolina, Jacksonville is the next one here. Carolina is 2-13. Jacksonville is 8-7. Sam, -6.5 is the number for this one. The Jags are favored at home, as one would imagine. Carolina being as poor as they are. 37.5 is the total for this game, plus 230 for Carolina. When you're looking at this one too, I know Jacksonville's had its struggles, but is this one where they can handle their business and cover the 6.5, Sam?
I think so. I think I want to buy the Jags here. Carolina just had its best offensive output, but it was against the Packers and Joe Barry's defense that had previously allowed back-to-back NFC Player of the Week awards. So I think this is a get-right game for Jacksonville. I'm not sure the status of Trevor Lawrence at this point. I think he injured his throwing arm, but even if it is CJ Beathard, I think Jacksonville, they wanted to run the ball a lot and have struggled, but I think Carolina gives them an opportunity to run the ball as effectively as they want. So I think regardless of quarterback, I want the Jags here.
All right, Pat, your thoughts on this game here. The Jags, obviously, a lot of injuries, a lot of issues the last few weeks. Is this the get-right game for them?
I'm not sure it is, Joe. 4 straight losses, and they have been stomped by the Ravens and the Buccaneers the last 2 weeks. I don't want to bet the Panthers either. I'm just going to pass on this one.
All right, fair enough. Let's get to the next one then. Tampa hosting New Orleans. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are 8-7. Saints are 7-8. The Bucs, as they should be, 3-point favorites at home. 42 is the consensus number, plus 135 here on the New Orleans Saints money line. Fitz, Tampa Bay just kind of feels like, ironically, at this juncture in the season, the best team in this division. And this is a chance for them to really go out there and prove it. Will they do that this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, the Buccaneers have really found their footing. They've won 4 straight, as you mentioned. And over the last 2 weeks, they've beaten the Packers and the Jaguars, 2 respectable teams, by a combined 32 points. Meanwhile, the Saints have lost 4 of their last 6, and the 2 wins came against the Panthers and the Giants. And back in week 4, the Buccaneers handled the Saints really easily, 26-9, and that was before the Bucs did find their footing. So I think they're going to take care of business, and I'm happy to lay the points. The only thing that gives me slight pause is that the Saints have that extra 3 days of rest and prep time after playing the Thursday night game last week.
Sam, the Bucs were convincing, 30-12 on Christmas Eve here against the Jags. I mean, it just kind of feels like things are going their way. They found their quarterback in Baker Mayfield. That reclamation project has worked for them. The Saints, as Fitz said, it does have some extra time, but does that even matter with the Saints team at this point?
I don't think it does, but I do like the over in this game. I think both offenses, the Bucs offense, again, Baker Mayfield playing really great football right now. It's cool to see him sort of rejuvenate his career there. It sounds like they want to keep him past this year as well. And the Saints offense is great at padding stats at the end of games. And when they're down big, they throw the ball a ton and can get back into these games. And Tampa Bay secondary is one that is going to allow you to be able to do that. So I think over 42 here is my leaning right now.
All right, next game on the slate, the Philadelphia Eagles at home will take on the Arizona Cardinals. Philly's favored by 9.5 on this one. I'm actually surprised it's not a little larger. I'm worried this one's going to grow as the week rolls on. 47.5 is the total, plus 450 on the Arizona money line. Sam, where did you have this game? Just out of curiosity in your projections, because it feels like this one would have been at double digits, but it hasn't quite hit there yet.
Yeah, so this one was at -12 in favor of the Eagles before the game yesterday, and now is down to -9.5. And the game between the Eagles and the Giants, it felt like different parts of the Eagles team clicked at different times. Like the defense played well for a little bit, and then the offense played well, but it just never all happened at once. That said, the Cardinals are not, even with Kyler Murray, they're just not that great. I think Philadelphia is going to be able to take care of business here. I'm not laying either side in. This could be just a weird game.
I can understand that. All right, the Rams are going to travel to New York next week for Week 17. They are going to be 6.5-point favorites when they do to face the Giants. 42 is the consensus number, plus 235 on the Giants money line. The Giants are 5-10. The Rams are 8-7. It feels like two teams, that have obviously gone in a different direction this season. So, Sam, that being said, do you see any early value in this line?
Yeah, give me the Rams. They are one of the hottest teams on offense right now. Matthew Stafford is playing quarterback as well as any other in the league right now. They'll get the extra rest having played on Thursday night, and the Giants are on a short week as well, having played on Monday afternoon. So I think Stafford's going to be able to take care of business against the Giants. Again, Kyron Williams playing extremely well. So I don't see how the Giants are able to stop this Rams offense.
The two greatest waiver wire pickups of 2023, Kyron Williams and Puka Nacua on the same team, Patty. It's been quite a season for the Rams here, and they are getting hot at the right time. So do you think, Fitz, that you have that same confidence that Sam does here, that they can go on the road here with the 6.5 and take care of business against the Giants?
Not quite as much. If I were going to bet this one, that is who I would bet, but it's just a little too tall for me to do that, especially after the Giants were able to, and we talked about the Eagles, like the Giants just hung around in that game and refused to be extinguished and wound up getting the cover as a double-digit underdog. So, like, I kind of think they can keep this one close. I just don't want to touch it. I mean, I think the Rams win.
Is the Rams offense better than the Eagles offense right now? Because I think it is.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
No question. The Eagles passing game has struggled for a couple of months now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a funny thing to ask that question, but I think it needed to be rhetorically asked because I think all three of us agree that's the case. So if they kind of, just kind of backdoored last week, we're only talking about 6.5 here. That feels like a long day at the office maybe for the New York Giants, but I think we're all pretty confident what the Rams have done recently. What about Houston and Tennessee? Interesting situation here. Always a tough one here. Houston at home. We don't know the CJ Stroud status. -3.5 their favorite against Tennessee. 42.5 is the number. Plus 155 on the money line. Fitz, is this a stay away until you have clarity when it comes to the Houston Texans QB situation this week?
Yeah, I mean, if anything, Joe, I think maybe you want to get this now before we get word on. I have to imagine Stroud is back this week, but
they have said it's one of the more serious quarterback concussions, is what I read that they've had all year. But to your point too, it's been a few weeks now, so very tricky situation.
So, that's the thing, but I guess even if Stroud is back, I don't have the same warm and fuzzy feeling about the Texans that I had a month ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So maybe just laying off this one is the right move, because if we don't get Stroud, then all of a sudden 3.5 points does not look like a bargain by any means.
Are you where Fitz is, Sam, on this one, where you want to take it now before you get clarity about this lane changing if Stroud does play and this one getting a little tighter?
I don't want to touch it all because I don't even think we know who's going to be playing quarterback on the other side of the ball for the Titans. Yeah. And while I don't think Tannehill to Levis changes the line that much, the variability in Levis's play is much wider than it is for Ryan Tannehill. So I think, again, if Levis plays, then I'd want to, again, try to maybe target some alt spreads for the Titans in favor of Tennessee. But I'm not touching this game until we know more about the quarterbacks.
All right, San Fran at Washington. Boy, if ever there was a perfect opponent for a team that just came off a bad loss on a primetime holiday game, it's the Washington Commanders. That's what you want to see if you're the 49ers. I mean, the Commanders just got their butt kicked by the Jets. I can't imagine what kind of pain they're going to be involved in. What do you think the team total is going to be for this game here, Sam? 49ers are 13.5-point favorites. 48.5 is the number. Plus 600 for the Washington Commander upset. Now, I know Washington sometimes shows up in weird games. They have this year at certain junctures. Just ask the Eagles. But That being said, San Fran is a lot to handle for Washington. They struggled with Breece Hall. I can't imagine all the overs on Christian McCaffrey. Is that just the approach for this one, Sam?
Yeah, I mean, I think Kyle Shanahan's just going to get all of his frustration out on against his former team. I kind of want to know who's going to be starting for Washington in this game. I think if they do go with Jacoby Brissett, I think there could be a little bit of value on the Commanders because he has not played terribly. I mean, I think he raises the floor for Washington a little bit. And again, we've seen San Francisco's defense against some competent teams can have some success and potentially keep it close. So just look at Christian McCaffrey overs.
Yeah, Christian McCaffrey overs. Do you think if Jacoby Brissett was the quarterback of the Jets or the Falcons all year, they'd be playoff teams? Because I do with those defenses. Yes. And that just goes to they sat on Brissett, and they're a 4-win team at the trade deadline. And I didn't understand why that wasn't the piece that everybody was going for, or why maybe the Commanders didn't want to give him up. It's just so strange to me because I think those teams would have really benefited from Brissett, who is a good leader, a likable guy in the clubhouse. Everybody seems to like him in the locker room. And again, another Stefanski quarterback last year that somehow found a way to win games and keep them relevant for longer than maybe the Browns should have been. Stefanski's a great coach. I don't think he gets enough credit.
Here's the thing. If Washington plays Brissett all year, they're probably a playoff team, or they're at least in contention for a wild card spot at this point.
It's not impossible. Fitzy, your thoughts on this potential ugly situation here for the Commanders and 49ers?
I think we do see Brissett this week. I don't think they can run out Sam Howell, who over his last 3 games, I'm not sure Sam Howell has completed even 40% of his passes the last 3 games. He has been a hot mess. And I don't like touching games where the road favorite is favored by like 2 touchdowns. It's just way too many points. As Sam said, if it is Brissett, maybe there's a little bit of value on the Commanders here, but like, I just think like, I'm not sure what's going on with Brock Purdy. I don't think we're going to get 2 terrible games in a row. And heaven knows this 49ers offense could just shred this paper mache Commanders defense to ribbons. But yeah, I just don't want to bet. I'm not laying the points here, and I'm not really anxious to bet the Commanders either. But by the way, Joe, the Commanders really weren't thumped by the Jets. It took a last-second field goal, basically. True. And then they hung pretty tough with the Rams
they got back
the
in
week
that
before.
Game. The first part of that game was just wacky.
Right. They were getting crushed.
They were there was just so much energy in that building, too. It was so bizarre. Like, Robert Saleh just, poor guy.
But like Washington is not laying down this season. Like they played the Rams tough 2 weeks ago, and they came back against the Jets when they could have just waved the white flag in that game. So, I think a lot of people think the 49ers are going to be really steamed after losing this big game and everything, and they're just going to crush this overmatched opponent. But like, this is just too many points.
I agree. It's a lot of points. So it does make me scared. That's why I keep saying, give me the all-purpose Christian McCaffrey yards and 2 touchdowns. What can I get with the 2 touchdowns for Christian McCaffrey? I'll take that. Those are the 2 numbers I want.
I'm really excited about going against him in a championship game in fantasy next week. Yikes. Put it that way.
Yeah, at least you're still alive. All my teams are dead now. All right, let's go to Pittsburgh and Seattle. Seattle's 8-7, and so are the Pittsburgh Steelers. Talk about looking good. Pittsburgh Steelers coming out strong with some energy over the Christmas holiday. They are going to go to Seattle. They're going to be 3.5-point underdogs there. Over on the Consensus Betting Pros line. 41.5 is the total for this game, plus 150 for the Steelers. So Mason Rudolph has come to town. Fitzy, your thoughts on this Steelers-Seattle contest for Week 17?
Yeah, well, the Steelers have been one of the most unpredictable teams in the league all season, and I feel very vindicated that I finally was on the right side of them this past week. Taking the money line against the Bengals, I just felt like they weren't going to lose that game. I don't know, I just had this feeling. But now we get a game between 2 of the most unpredictable teams in the league, so I'm not touching this one. No thanks. Like Steelers versus Seahawks, 2 teams, you never know what you're going to get from game to game. Like wide range of outcomes for this one. I'm not betting it.
It does feel like 4-outcome game. It's interesting too because you look at Mason Rudolph, he had a 2-touchdown game. The big play to Pickens early on certainly kind of set the tone on this one. But it's funny because it's as many 2-touchdown games as Kenny Pickett's had the entire season, which is also, I think, sad and depressing. So 4 outcome games certainly exists here. But Sam, does the data point to one of these outcomes being more likely for you?
No, because to Fitz's point, these are two teams that I can't get a read on. I mean, they're just all over the place and putting up stinkers against bad teams, putting up great performances against good teams. I mean, I think for me, this means to bet the under because, again, you don't really know what you're going to get out of these offenses. The Pittsburgh defense, I think, still has some juice, and the Seahawks offense, to what I was saying, has struggled at points. The Seahawks defense has played pretty decently the last couple of weeks as well, held, again, what we think is an underwhelming Philadelphia offense to just 20 points. So I like the under here. I think these are two teams that just can't both figure it out at the same time.
Speaking of not being able to figure it out, I give you the Kansas City Chiefs, who are now 9-6. They're going to be under that win total, I believe, for the year now, right? I'm pretty sure, or at least push. So 9-6 for them, taking on Cincinnati, who maybe the Cinderella has lost her slipper here. Kansas City's 7.5-point favorites at home. 45.5 is the number, plus 285 on the Cincinnati side of the money line. Sam, I mean, we keep sitting here every week and we think, okay, this can't last, it can't last, it can't last. But this offense just cannot seem to work. And there were times where it was starting to look good. Like Travis Kelce had some big plays in that first half of that game. You know, and then the Pacheco injury happened and he came out. I don't know. It's just Kansas City might just be having one of those years, and it happens. It's happened. I mean, in the Patriot dynasty, I remember one year that happened too. It was a year after they lost the Super Bowl, and they just could not get back on track. And it kind of feels like that's where Kansas City is. No matter what they do, they can't get out of their own way. But what do you think here? 7.5, is that too many points for the Kansas City Chiefs to be favored in a game, even at home?
Yeah, I mean, this year is so weird, man. The Cincinnati defense is terrible, but the Chiefs offense just lacks explosiveness and consistency. But man, this Chiefs defense is legit. I mean, they've allowed a success rate over 40% just once in the last 6 weeks to Jordan Love, I might add. I don't like either side here. I think the under, again, 45 points is a lot. I think the Chiefs will be able to hold down this Bengals offense, especially if they don't have Jamar Chase again. And the Chiefs offense, to me, I want to look at the Travis Kelce receiving props, because the Bengals have been terrible against tight ends all season. But I can't trust this Chiefs offense right now. It's crazy, because if this Chiefs offense looks like even the worst version of itself from the last 5 years, this team is just a gauntlet because of how well their defense is playing. But that's not the case. So give me the under in this game.
Chase is probably unlikely for this. We heard he was going to miss multiple weeks, so I don't anticipate having Chase. Is that just the difference maker in the 7.5 here?
Not necessarily. I mean, I don't think the Chiefs should be favored by more than a touchdown against anyone other than the dregs of the league right now. And the Bengals are not the dregs of the league by any stretch of the imagination. Like, yeah, they've got problems on defense, and I think we saw that Jake Browning is not going to be, someone's quarterback of the future. But I still like the Bengals and the points here, because we have seen this Chiefs passing game struggle to such an extent. Like, since coming out of their bye, Patrick Mahomes is averaging 6.4 yards per pass attempt. That is Mac Jones. That is a Mac Jones number. Like, this passing game is not working right now. So I'm inclined to take the Bengals, but I do agree with Sam. The best bet in this game is the under, far and away. Okay, the under, far and away. All right, what about Denver hosting the Chargers? Denver's 5.5-point favorites at home against the Chargers. 38.5 is the number for this one, plus 200. Fitz, is there any value on the Chargers here, with considering the way Denver's looked in the last couple weeks? Oh, maybe. This game is just such a weird thing to say. I don't think I've said that all season, but I just right. Like, are the Chargers the team that got stuffed into a locker by the Raiders 2 weeks ago, or are they the team that was surprisingly plucky in week 16? Like, I don't know, and I don't know where the Broncos are. I just don't want to touch this game at all. These are two tough teams to invest in, Sam. That being said, is that a walk away for you? I think I slightly lean the Chargers here if this crosses 6, because, again, to what you guys were saying, the Chargers played pretty decent against Buffalo, and Denver played about as poor as you could against New England. I know they made the
the game looked close at the end there, but they had a negative 2.1% pass rate over expectation against a Patriots defense that we know is strong against the run. Denver wants to run the ball, but they're not really good at it. They're negative 0.098 EPA per rush, is 16th in the league this year. So I think if Denver runs the ball, keeps this total lower, Chargers have enough to keep it close. So if this crosses 6, then give me the Chargers.
All right, last one here. Your Green Bay Packers, gentlemen, are going to travel to Minnesota. Minnesota, another heartbreaking loss for them. Just nothing but heartbreak for the 7-8 Vikings. They are 2-point home favorites, Sam. 45.5 is the total on this game, plus 105 on the Green Bay Packers side. So the question is, it's practically a pick 'em. What side do you want to be picking?
I mean, I want to be picking the Packers because I'm a cheesehead, but the biggest concern here is the injuries on offense on both sides. It looks like Minnesota could be without both Jordan Addison and TJ Hawkinson. Green Bay is also dealing with injuries on offense. There might be without Christian Watson, and Jaden Reed missed the game this past week. Jordan Love has been okay against the blitz this year, which Brian Flores loves to do. He's 9th in PFF passing grade against the blitz. I made this Minnesota by 2, so I'm right on the line and don't see any value right now.
All right, Fitzy, any value in this practical pick'em for the Monday night contest?
No, I don't think so. And part of the reason why,
Sunday night contest, no Monday this week because of college football. Pardon me.
So my inclination would probably be to take the Vikings just because of how badly the Packers defense has been playing. But then again, Nick Mullins is such a wild card. I mean, this is a man who truly does not have a conscience when it comes to throwing downfield. Like he threw 4 interceptions in that game this past weekend. He probably could have thrown 8 interceptions in that game. Like, I don't know how many turnover-worthy plays he was graded as having by PFF. I can't wait to see what that number is because I guarantee you it's higher than 4. But that makes me not want to bet either side, but I kind of like the over here despite the injuries on offense Sam was talking about. Yes, Jordan Addison's hurt, but I think KJ Osborne can step in and torch this Packers defense just as well as Jordan Addison probably. And with the Packers, I don't think Love has really missed a beat missing his wide receiver. Like, he just spreads it around no matter what. So if it's not Christian Watson and Jaden Reed, it's going to be Romeo Doubs, Dontavian Wicks, Malik Heath, whoever Kraft, he needs to get it to, Tucker Kraft. So give me the over here. I'm not interested in either side.
There you go. And make sure you're interested, obviously, in continuing to follow along here with all this line movement. Make sure you download the Betting Pros app, that you are checking out the game notifications so you can stay on top with all the line alerts so you know exactly where the movement is happening with these games. And remember, if you haven't already, download the app now because you get 3 free days of premium on iOS. Great weekend to do it. You've got all the college football bowl stuff happening, the college playoffs, NFL action. Great time to utilize the tools at Betting Pros. And don't forget, if you're watching here on the YouTube, subscribe, drop the comments below, and you just might win a 1-year free premium upgrade to the best betting tools on the planet. Speaking of the best betting tools on the planet, I love these two guys. I kid, I love you. Sam Hoppen, Pat Fitzmaurice, great stuff as always, gentlemen. Enjoy the rest of your week. That'll do it for us, but the story of the game goes on. For Sam and Fitz, I'm Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids. Happy New Year.